After 49 episodes, it's official. I've run out of people to interview. Welcome back, Mitch Ellis. Fresh off your first season in the MLB minor league system, how are you, my friend?
Good, mate. Good. Am I the first repeat customer?
You are. Yeah, you are.
That's huge. I'll put that on the mantelpiece
Yeah.
for sure.
Technically, you're not the first in the new studio. So you were the first in the old studio,
Yeah.
but number two for this studio. So
Could have popped 2 cherries.
I know. But anyway, it is super to have you in because it's we learnt a few chapters of your baseballing story before, and I thought it would be good to get the latest chapter, which is obviously this year and how you've gone. But first off, you're obviously just been back for a few weeks. How has it been being back?
Yeah, good, mate. It's good. It was definitely, a great year, but a long year. 9 months of baseball is pretty full on. So it's good to get home and kind of reset and get back around mates and family and familiar places.
You spent the season playing in Quad Cities, Colombia, and then, am I pronouncing this right? The Surprise Saguaros?
Cigarros, yeah.
Cigarros.
It's a type of cactus, but yeah, it was good.
So,
The boys.
where are the Cigarros based? Is that Arizona?
Yeah, so it's Surprise. It's where our spring training facility is in our complex, and it's shared between us and the Rangers. So
Yeah.
kind of just pick a group of teams and slot them there.
Yeah. Okay, so you've had a few weeks, obviously, to be back, to sort of sit back, decompress on the whole season. How do you sort of look back on your first season as a whole?
Yeah, it was good, mate. It was good. Definitely some struggles early on and some growing pains, but it was good to see the progression throughout the whole year. And doesn't matter if you start slow, but it's how you finish and how you carry yourself throughout. So I was happy with how it went. It was good to get a season in after last year's mishap, so it was nice. But yeah, overall, real happy with how I went and how I progressed along the year.
Were you originally meant to be a year before? So was yours year deal pushed back a year?
Yeah, so I was supposed to go, obviously I signed January 2020 and then season got canned with COVID and all the rest. So yeah, to miss the first year and then to finally get over there, it was nice to get my feet in the ground and kind of show a bit of what I can do. You
sort of just touched on there the sort of early season struggles. I think for relief pitchers, numbers and stats don't really tell the sort of the full side of the story because you're in there for an inning or an inning and a third or whatever, and one bad outing kind of just throws that into whack. But your last sort of 3 months was unbelievable. You even made your first start. I guess what was it sort of about the first couple of months that you really started to adjust and sort of get comfortable with everything?
Yeah. The first couple of months were tough. I think my first outing, I think I might have gone 0.1 of an inning and gave up 4, so it's tough to peg the ERA back after that one. But not really the storybook start to the professional career that I drew up. But yeah, we kind of took some steps forward. But in the grand scheme of things, I think the part that kept me positive was I wasn't having too much success at the start, but I wasn't really getting hit hard. So it was like I wasn't pitching too bad. I just didn't have too much luck behind me, and then we made some small adjustments, and it's just a daily step forward that over time it kind of cleared everything else up, which is good. But probably from the outside you're looking and going, oh geez, I was probably those first couple of months looking over my shoulder with the condensed minor league rosters. It's pretty cutthroat at the moment. So when you have a rough month and a half or 2 months to start it,
you look over your
shoulder thinking it could be a quick trip back to Melbourne.
Yeah.
But we avoided it, which was good.
Talk about you said they're getting hit hard. So a lot of people who probably don't know baseball probably don't understand sort of how analytical it is. So, I could absolutely smoke one and, this shortstop just pulls off a blinder and then, on the other end of the scale, the pitcher could come up and just hit like this little dinky bloop single which kind of just drops in. So talk about those sort of things that I guess the coaching staff or the pitching coaches, they look at with you to sort of go, hey, I know you're getting hit, but you're not getting hit hard, and this will eventually even out.
Yeah, so it was a bit of that. I think they just kind of told me to stay the course. I had a conversation with the pitching coordinator in spring training. He kind of told me, he was like, look, I don't really care what your stats are through the year or come August. I don't care if you got a a 0.5 ERA or a 50. He's like, as long as you work on off speed, because I obviously came over with a strong arm, but not really too much pitching background, obviously.
Yeah.
So he kind of just told me, he's like, if you got a 50 ERA in August, I don't care, as long as you got a fucking slider. So I was like, all right, well, that's reassuring, but
it's hard for the confidence though, because you obviously want to make a good first impression, and it's like it's all good and well to, I guess, hear that. We just want you to do this, but you're getting hit. It's like a tendency, I guess, to fall back on, I guess, what made you sort of good. No offense, what made you good, here?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was a bit definitely discouraging not having success early, and then, like I said, with the condensed minor leagues, it's probably a bit of an expedited path either up or out. So it's one of those things where I was kind of probably a bit down on myself, but not really down on my abilities, just kind of my ability to execute. I thought, I was still making... My pitches weren't too bad. My velo was a bit down. I probably had a couple inefficiencies in my delivery that we cleared up over time. But, just kind of keeping myself focused and just reminding myself that, I'm learning a lot more from the failures than I am from, even early on, I'd have the innings where I'd, come out and give up 2 or 3, and then, I'd have a scoreless inning. And then I'd probably look at both of those and go, all right, well, in the grand scheme of things, I learned a lot more about, what to do and a lot more takeaways from the failures and the success. So, just reminding myself that it's not, live or die. It's succeed or learn kind of thing. So it was something I kind of had to push myself back and be like, all right, I had a rough one yesterday, but why was that? Oh, I left a couple sliders up. I got myself in good counts, especially early on and probably throughout the year. I had a lot of success getting into 2-strike counts, but I probably wasn't
wiping them away.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't really have that kill pitch or that killer instinct to go, all right, got to 2 strikes, you're out now. This pitch, I got you. I was kind of still probably with the lack of success. I was probably like, all right, I have him 0-2, but I still have to make a great pitch here because I've had given up so many hits and soft contact with 2 strikes. It's like, all right, I gotta get him out here, and then I'm forcing myself, and I think you got to make the perfect pitch when you really don't, and then that's when you make your mistakes.
What would you say your go-to pitch is? 0-2, let's say 2 outs, 0-2, no one on base, and you know that you're sort of I guess I've got a couple of pitches to play with. What are you pulling back?
Probably depends on, righty, lefty. Righty would probably be slider and then fastball up. Probably see if I could get a chase on the slider. I got a lot of swing and misses out of the zone with the slider.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, they tell you to back your strong suit, which for me is my fastball. It's probably, mid to touch upper 90s on occasion, and then it's a lot of vert. I get a lot of spin, and the vertical break on it's really good. So it's something where it's I've probably been yelled at a few times for trying to be too fine and trying to be, all right, I need to show that I can get punch outs with the slider or the splitter, so I'm throwing it, and then I'm making mistakes with it instead of just backing yourself and trusting your best pitch and challenging him one-on-one.
Yeah, how many guys struggle with that fastball that really moves? Because I remember a guy played for the Blue Jays and played for Houston. I think he just kind of fell off a cliff. His name is Aaron Sanchez. And he was
with the Giants last year, I think.
Yeah. Unbelievable, real tall, unbelievable, compact sort of throwing action. But his fastball, touched
I think he's a sinker guy, so...
Yeah, it had so much movement that he just really had... He really had troubles just literally throwing consistent strikes with it. How many other guys really actually struggle with it?
There's a lot of
movement.
That. Yeah, there's a lot of that, which is tough. But it's kind of, especially for me being a vert guy, my fastball goes up kind of thing. I'm probably 20 inches. I got up to 26 and a half inches, which is pretty crazy. But for vert guys, it's really not that difficult to kind of know what your ball's going to do. You want to be at the top of the zone so it kind of takes off. Or for me, I had a lot of success at the bottom of the zone because it kind of looks like it's going to die and then it just stays true and clips the bottom. But it's those sinker guys where it's one day, one day you could be sinking it like this, and then the next day it's a lot smaller, and it's kind of, a day-to-day kind of thing of seeing
hard to get confidence.
Yeah, exactly. If it's so inconsistent on movement, which it is, which is probably the double-edged sword of being a sinker or a two-seam guy. It's like someday it might break a lot, and then other days it might not, and then you got to kind of figure out a strategy around that.
Let's talk about the minor league lifestyle, because we sort of touched on that beforehand, how it can be a bit of a grind, as you would
certainly,
as you would explain it. But when you factor in that we're still very much living in a COVID-affected world, especially from a sporting point of view, what talk about sort of that whole experience, and what I guess like a normal road trip, or something that would probably make people just go like, how the fuck are you doing that as a professional athlete?
Yeah, with the COVID stuff, we weren't too bad. Like early on, it was you had to do a test on, I think it was Tuesdays and Thursdays were the test days, and then it was like a mask in the clubhouse, a mask in the dugout and in the bullpen. You just didn't have to mask on the field. I wasn't too mad about that early on. We opened in Indiana and it was snowing the first week, so
wow,
the mask did me a bit of favours, which was good.
Yeah. Talk about a contrast from like where you finished the season.
Yeah, well, even where we started, so we came out of spring training in Arizona, obviously, and it was 30 plus every day, and then we head up to South Bend, Indiana, and it was snowing, so it was a bit of a stark contrast between the two elements. But so this year was a bit easier with the travel and stuff. Usually in past years, it's kind of 3-game series, 6 games a week, and some days you might travel and then play the next day. Whereas for us, they did this year 6-game series, so you were at the same place for the whole week, and then you had the
makes
Monday
so
off.
Much more sense.
Yeah. So that was good, that side of it. But so just a regular road series. Probably we got out of there, probably be at the field, report time about 8:30 on the Tuesday, and then bus leaves at 10:30. Everyone's got their jobs to carry stuff on or stuff like that, and then depend on the trip. Like we'd either get there, probably have an hour in the hotel, and then go to the field, and then.
Yeah.
After the travel day's done, it's really easy being on the road. Like especially, you only play one day game, which is a Sunday. So on the road days, you don't get home till 12:30, 1 o'clock. But then you don't have a report until the bus isn't probably till 3:30 or 4. So you got a bit of time in the morning, which is good.
Yeah. What do you normally do to kill the time on the bus? Because some of these road trips are, you're not going from Preston to Thornbury.
Yeah. Well, this year was a bit better, because the way they organise the divisions, I think our longest road trip was 7 hours, so it's pretty variable. But for me, I'll just try and either get a bit of sleep. I'm not usually too good sleeping, but outside of that, just sit on Spotify for a couple of hours. Or I was reading the Green Lights, Matthew McConaughey audio book.
Oh, okay.
So I pass a bit of time. And
Does he do it?
Yeah. So it's unbelievable,
Yeah.
the audio book. I'd recommend it to anyone. I think it's a lot better than probably just reading it, because he's a quirky individual. But
that's probably
that's
probably a really dumb question to say. Did he actually do it? Like imagine going, oh, we're going to get this book about you, but we're actually not going to get you to do the audio book. We're just going to get just some random bloke.
Exactly. You got one of the most iconic voices in Hollywood, but we're going to get Joe Root down there to do it for you.
There's a really funny video of Matthew McConaughey at Texas college basketball game, because he's very famous
big Longhorns man.
Big Longhorns man. He's wearing like an orange suit, and I think
cowboy hat on too.
Yeah, I think I don't know what's happening in the game. It was sort of like a crucial time in the game, and he literally goes to the Texas bench and he goes, "Up you get." And they all just get up straight away, as if it's like the coach telling them to fucking get up.
Absolutely.
He just literally leans over and just lifts his hands up, and they're like, oh, yep, sorry. But absolute royalty. I knew a guy who went to play college football there.
Yeah.
And plays in the NFL now. Just watching his college football games just looked like the best way to spend a Saturday. 100,000 people.
They love their footy in Texas.
Oh, just even the entrance into the stadium.
Yeah.
It's just...
Some of them do it well. I think it's Virginia Tech that have the Enter Sandman, is it?
Yeah.
That one's pretty iconic. But they definitely look after their college sport, especially football. Probably baseball a bit more falls by the wayside. But
well, South Bend is Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Did you get to one of their games?
We didn't get to any of the games because we didn't get there till
the season
May 4th.
Wouldn't overlap?
Yeah. Nah. So, but I think it was about finals time when we were there, so we were able to go to a couple of the bars down in South Bend, and it was a a good time.
You mentioned before your first outing was probably not what you
Certainly.
Dreamed up. But I guess what were you sort of feeling sort of going into that? Like, obviously, all of these experiences, you played college over there, so it's not a new experience, but it's kind of a new branch to that you're sort of experiencing for the first time. What were you thinking, like, on the mound? Like, how are you just sort of... I know you're not playing in front of, 50,000 people.
Yeah.
But it's almost... I would almost reckon it'd be worse. You've got 5,000 people. You've got a couple of local pissheads who can clearly see the name on the back and can clearly talk to you.
Yeah.
Like, what's going through your head at sort of that point?
Well, it was an interesting week at Notre Dame. I mean, at South Bend, but they had... a pretty active student section down. Like, it was probably cheap tickets for the kids, and they decided to sit down in our bullpen, which is good, and give us a bit of feedback on how we were going. And I actually received a bit of feedback about our government, which is good. I heard Australia's government's shit. And I turned around and I was like, bit of a pot kettle here.
Yeah,
with the Americans letting us have it. But
you throwing
didn't really have
a glass house up there.
Yeah, exactly. But no leg to stand on for us with how we're doing. But I think what stuffed me up a bit was I didn't have any nerves. So for me, like, the first couple of outings in spring training, so I think I threw 6 innings, I think I had 4 or 5 outings in spring training. And I remember warming up to go in for my first outing in spring training, and the pitching coach down there gave me a bit of feedback, and he said, this is your first professional outing? I was like, wow. Technically, yeah, I guess. Yeah. And he goes, fuck, you must be a bit nervous. And I was like, fuck, I wasn't until you said that, mate. And then I was...
It has a lack of respect to the ABL.
Yeah,
we're playing semi-pro down here.
Probably fair enough. But no, so I think I was probably a bit more nervous in spring training, those first outings. I wasn't really sure if I was going to be able to break with the team. And for me, it was kind of just try and get through spring training still on the list kind of thing. So I think spring training because it's a bit different. You're on the back fields and you got all the farm directors and pitching coordinators.
There's
and
like
all
hundreds of people.
Yeah, so they're all standing behind home plate. You can clearly see them, So it's... Then once the season started, I was nerve free. So I think that's what kind of stuffed me up a bit. Was especially as a reliever, you need that little happy medium of adrenaline and some nerves to kick in, so you can kind of come in and be ready. But I think I kind of came out and I was like, all right, well, I cruised through spring training. Like, I think I had 6 scoreless and I had a few punchies and had a really good spring training. That's how I broke with high A, which for me, I was kind of expecting to be in Arizona and maybe in the complex league or get to low A. So I think. Not a sense of being content or anything like that, but I just think, having such a good spring training, I kind of thought I'd just roll out and it would happen kind of thing. So
I guess it lures you into like a false sense of security. You kind of like, and it's not arrogance, but it's like, as a professional athlete, you have that confidence, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like you just have it, and you kind of like, oh yeah, like, I've been successful my whole career. Like, why wouldn't I be successful at this level as well? Yeah,
exactly. And then that's a tough thing to take when you're not having that success, and it's like, oh shit, like, this thing might be over before it gets going. But no, we righted the ship, which was good. Yeah.
Do you remember you were like, and I guess it probably might have been in this first outing, like, everyone sort of gets that when they go into, like, say, a new league, or even normally, like, when they make, like, say, the major leagues or, playing the NFL or NBA, they get that, oh shit, I'm in the big league kind of a moment. Like, were you sort of like, saw this, big Cuban dude come out and you're like, oh shit, I'm not, playing like, down at Green Hills, Montmorency, like throwing at, little kids like Heath Jenkins.
Yeah. Nah, definitely. I don't think it was probably, not really a sense of occasion or anything like that. I think like it's a brilliant ballpark they've got there, and it's pretty top notch. Probably closer to a double A field than a high A field. So I think you kind of get a sense of accomplishment being on a field like that. But then I think the big issue, like they talk about when people get moved up, is that instead of doing what got you there, you kind of go, all right, now that I've stepped up a level, I have to kind of step myself up a bit. Yeah. And then it's like, all right, I got to make the perfect pitch, and then you
so
make
you
a
guys
mistake.
Throwing harder, and you're like, I got to
well,
find another 2 or 3 miles.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, okay, here we go. Got a bit of a top prospect here, and I got to kind of get it by him, and then you make a mistake and get burned a bit, which I think, I mean, in retrospect, with the success I had in the fall league, having that struggle early along and going, all right, like, oh, here's so-and-so, I kind of got to bring my game up a level. I think that kind of experience taught me for when I got to the fall league, and it was, prospect after prospect, that it's like, all right, I don't need to get above myself here. If I just, back myself and pitch to my strengths, then I'll be fine.
Yeah, it's almost like it's a funny thing, because with like local cricket here, everyone's so stats driven, right?
Yeah.
And so everyone looks at my cricket and they're like, oh shit, he's made runs, and then you go into like, say, a weekend where you're playing like fucking Hurstbridge, and you're like, and you're worried about this bloke, and you're like, he's just like, he's not that much better than me. Like, is that sort of thing? Like, because baseball is such a like analytically driven, stats driven game, you're like, this guy's on a tear, this guy's on a heater, he's batting 350, and you're almost like, you're already thinking the wrong. I guess you've got the wrong mindset, because you're like, fuck, I've got to be better than what I probably am.
Exactly. It's that kind of come out of your skin kind of thing, and I think for me it was a bit. I hadn't had the success early, so then it was like, all right, it's such a, especially professional baseball and in the minor leagues as well, it's such a stat-driven sport, like you play well, you move up for the most part. I think there's probably a bit of manipulation and some differences in that kind of area, but I think for me, especially having the bad stats to start, it was like, oh, I'd come out and I was like, all right, shit, I haven't got a punch out yet, like,
yeah.
Especially for relievers, like it's all about punching tickets. So for me, it was like, all right, well, this bloke steps in the box, it's 0-0, and I'm sitting like, I have to punch this guy out. Yeah. And then it's like, well, it's a good mindset to have, to go, oh, I'm punching this bloke out. But it's, if you're chasing that from the first pitch, it's like, well, that's when you make a mistake, because you're like, all right, here we go, got to go fastball in, and then, I'm going to go tunnel a slider off that. And it's like, well, I'm already thinking about the next pitch. It's like, no, I got to stay present and stay locked in. It's like, if I execute this pitch, then I can move on. But if I'm thinking about, what am I going to... I need a couple punch-outs of the slider to prove that it's a put-away pitch, and then it's like, well, now I'm trying to throw it more and trying to be a bit too cute with it kind of thing. And I got a bit of feedback too. I had a sit-down meeting with our pitching coordinator pretty early on, like when I was having the struggles and stuff, and it was... He reminded me about the hard hit rate and that I was doing really well with that. So it was like, all right, well, we kind of got to pitch to that, know that I'm getting soft contact, and if I get a first pitch rollover or some soft contact and they get a hit, it's like, well, I've done my job there.
Exactly. I feel like I was looking at your stats before that you did actually have a good K rate. Or am I?
Yeah. So that second half, I was punching out a lot, but the first couple of months, I really wasn't getting too many punchies, which probably skews the stats a bit. But I was able to save it towards the end there, which was good.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. It's like, I know you said 9-month season, but like the main season which you played, which was at Quad Cities, the River Bandits too, which is a nice name.
Yeah, still a bandit, I guess.
Yeah, no, I'm big fan of that. But so that's really like a 6-month season, and you kind of, the first 3 months, as you mentioned, you struggled, but the last 3 months you had maybe 1 or 2 outings where you sort of got hit around a bit, and there was just scoreless innings, a couple of scoreless innings with 2-3 punch outs. Like, it is amazing how it literally just can completely shift.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy, because then I had, people ask, like, interviews and stuff, or even just people back home or Royals guys asking me, like, oh, what'd you do? Like, expecting it was like, oh, yeah, I just did this and everything clicked kind of thing. But it's funny, it's like, it was just the slow progression over time, right? It was the daily catch where I kind of, I'm working on this, and then, we get that down and we'll work on something else kind of thing. And it wasn't really like a light bulb moment or anything like that kind of turned things around. It was just, sticking at it and staying present and being probably critical, not so much critical of myself, but more so critical of my analysis of myself.
Sure.
Which I think early on it was like, I beat myself up, like I have a shoot out in, and then I was like, all right, like, you nuffy. Like, how did you do that? Why would you throw that? And then as I kind of, the weeks kind of went by, I was like, all right, how about instead of going over my outing and just crushing myself for the mistakes, how about I look at what I did well, what pitches I threw that got the soft contact, and then it's like, all right, well, that'll be my focus for the next outing. And then I definitely started, I think early on I was just kind of backing myself in and kind of just playing it by ear. And then I got like a little notebook, and then for me, especially like starters, it's like they'll probably, get a notebook and write some stuff down on how their side went, their bullpen during the week, and then write down, what they did well, what they did wrong in their outing. But for me, it was kind of like, all right, well, I have this 15, 20 minutes of catch play every day. That's probably the most important part of my day. Like, if I'm throwing that night or if I'm not, like my catch play is still the biggest, foundation. And
explain what that catch play is.
Yeah, so that's like, the pitchers get there and we'll stretch, and then we play catch, which is just throwing to a partner kind of back and forth, and you either stretch it out or keep it short depending on the day, and then come back in and work on your off speed and work on, your delivery and your mechanics and stuff. So I think just really honing in on that and making sure, I didn't
It's a good 20
waste
minutes.
the throw. Yeah, exactly. And
I feel you, yeah.
I had like a little notebook, and then I'd take it out there with me. I write down, all right, like today's focus is staying neutral with my hips when I get out to distance. I had a bit of an issue with that. Like I had a bit of a pelvic tilt, and then that's when my velo was down, and we kind of got it squared away, and then my velo jumped back up. So like stuff like that, or little cues like I had a bit of trouble getting my arm out of my glove. Like it was a bit late.
Right.
So then we kind of changed it to where I wasn't having the ball, in my glove like this.
Yeah.
It was pretty much out of my glove, just hiding on the end kind of thing, and then it got out a bit smoothly. So like stuff like that for catch play, like writing down, all right, this is my focus of the day, and then after my catch play, I come back in and I'm like, all right, sit down, look at it, and go, all right, did I do well? Like what cues did I use to reach those kind of key indicators or whatever you'd say, and then say, all right, what cues didn't work, and kind of write down the cues and highlight them, and then just to make sure I've got some sort of plan in place to reach these goals or to reach these little checkpoint kind of things along the way.
Has to be one of the toughest things to do as a professional athlete in the way you review your performances, because it is so easy. And I'm obviously not a professional athlete. I'm not even close. And my badminton got close probably at like 16 to 18, but fell away. KFC, alcohol, other vices. We've all been there. But, even with, with the podcast, I'm very critical of, the way, like sometimes if I ask a question and I'm like, fuck, that's a dumb question. But it is very hard for me also to go like, there have been times when people have said, that's a good question. And I'll say thank you, but I won't actually, like, when I listen back, I won't be like, yeah.
That's it. You're kind of watching it and you're going, all right, bad question. What am I doing there? It's not like, all right, good question. Yeah. Good. You kind of just, it's hard to do that. Like, it's hard to look at, review your day or whatever, sport you're playing, you're out in, or your game, and kind of stick to the positives. I think especially, as athletes and as people, like you tend to be drawn towards those mistakes. Yeah. And especially for you, like you might sit down and watch the game and be like, oh shit, like I've done that. Or like for me, like I said, like my mechanics was kind of just making sure I stayed in check with keeping my hips neutral and staying back on the rubber. And like I might look at a pitch and it's like, all right, I executed the pitch perfectly. I got a great result, and I'm sitting there watching it going, you fucking dickhead. Like, your hips are like this, Yeah. And then you might sit down, like I watch it we go over footage with our pitching coach, Steve Lubo, who's a great man. And like there'd be pitch, like we'd be sitting there and we'd be going over stuff, and he'd show me a pitch and he's like, what do you got on that one? And I was like, oh, that's shit. Like, kind of fell towards my glove side a bit and leaked. And he'd like on occasion give you a little whack around the head, and he's like, no, that was perfect. Like, don't overanalyze that. And I think that's a big like resounding oh shit moment. It's like, all right, like there's a good thing about analyzing your mistakes and analyzing your outings, but it's like, all right, like focusing on the bad stuff starts to make you you find that, like, you find mistakes that aren't actually there.
Yeah, 100%.
Just because you're looking for it, which makes sense. Like, if I'm sitting back looking for great pitches, like, I went through and kind of made, like, a little video based off like, my footage from my best pitches. Just kind of thought it'd be a good little positive reinforcement as I head back into throwing for the off-season. And it's like, geez, you sit back and you're like, oh, that was a really good pitch. And then the next time you're like,
you're pretty good, you fucking rooster.
That one's shocking. And you're like, maybe somewhere in the middle, mate. You know?
Who would you say is the best relief pitcher of all time, best closer?
Best closer of all time, Mariano Rivera.
Yeah, perfect. So, have you seen 4 Days in October?
I have.
Now, what's something that happens to Mariano Rivera in that?
He blows it.
He blows 2, I believe.
Yeah.
And I always find that so fascinating because when you watched him on the mound, you know, he could give up a home run, he could get a strikeout, and his face is the same.
Yeah.
And if you look at, I think the one where, so what happened on both of them, I'm pretty sure is he walked the leadoff guy.
Yeah, which
it's a battle.
It's a bad omen.
It's a bad omen, but it's also like it is a game of. I know you hear the saying, it's a game of inches.
Yeah,
it literally is a game of inches, and it's super subjective. And the umpiring in the MLB a lot of times is pretty shit.
Yeah,
I'm saying that, not you, just in case anyone from the MLB Players Umpires Association is watching.
They're on strike too, mate, so they're probably not even watching the pod.
Yeah, no, probably not.
Usually they would be, but you know, they'd be all over it.
They're probably not watching this. They've got better things to do, but you know, where you're literally talking about a pitch which is subjective, right? Like he throws that and he goes, "Hang on a second, I think that's a strike," but the umpire's like, "Nope." It's so like hit and miss with umpiring that I think it is like important to understand that. Yeah, Mariano Rivera like is probably unanimously decided as the best closer, but in this situation, in 4 days, he's got 2 blown saves,
and that's it. And like no one's perfect. So you look at him versus like a Liam Hendricks, who's obviously, you know, Australia's premium major leaguer and the best reliever in baseball the last 2 years. The year he had this year, I think he had like 112 punchies and 9 walks, which is ridiculous.
Absolutely crazy numbers.
But him and Mariano, probably the 2 opposite ends of the spectrum. Like as you said, Mariano, real stoic in how he went about it, like never high, never too low, whereas Hendricks is going nuts from pitch one. As we saw in the All-Star game when he probably said a few words that American viewers aren't too used to hearing. But like even that, and it's an All-Star game, right? Yeah. So like the stats don't matter. It's, you know, you've achieved the goal, which was making the All-Star game, and then it's just kind of go out and have fun. But Hendo's nut. He's gone out there and he's motherfucking himself and he's letting himself have it, and then he's, you know, screaming it like he just won the World Series when he gets the last out, and you're like, all right, mate, like, whatever makes you good, you know, lean into that.
Yeah, I think we spoke about him in the other episode because we were
talking about like service time. I think.
Yeah. Which we got a good story about the service time and the pension from the other week. But I remember seeing him in Toronto, and he wasn't the Liam Hendricks that he is now.
Yeah, completely.
And you know, he would go off like after because this is when I was living there, and he would, you know, go off after, you know, maybe giving up a couple of hits, maybe giving up a run, but then, you know, he's got through the inning and, you know, like face in the glove, like screaming, like really letting him have it. Like Brian Wilson, like your man,
the man.
Like there are just pitchers who are just literally like that.
Yeah,
like there are pitchers who are just, that's just the way they get up.
Like we had a bloke with us. I think he was pitcher of the year for us in high A. He was a kid, went to Coastal Carolina. One of my real good mates, lefty. Got up, he's a starter, ran up to 100, like...
Yeah, that works.
That'll play. But he's one of those guys too, right? So his dad passed away, and he has conversations with himself and with his dad when he's out on the mound, and he's a real self-talk, like sometimes negative, which could hurt him, but he's a character in himself, right? Yeah. And then towards us, hey, like, no talking to yourself on the mound, like, be stoic, let it... Never too high, like make sure everything's kind of just water off a duck's back.
Yeah.
And he probably didn't have the success he'd been having.
Realised,
And then he went back to, all right, like, you know, this is my career. I'm gonna be myself and be myself out there. And then all of a sudden, bang, like he's having all the success, and he's obviously a superstar and one of my good mates. But to see, like, you know, him realise that, all right, like, me not being myself is not going to help me perform well, and that's not going to help my career, even if it's, you know.
Yeah, I think Marcus Stroman is like exactly the same. You know, and you see a lot of pitchers do this. They will write something like at the back of the mound, like usually to, you know, whether it's a parent, you know, family member or something, and then, you know,
unless you're Trevor Bauer and write Bush did 9/11, which was an interesting one to throw on the back of a big league.
What about? I remember a few years ago, he
had buds on the back, and he was.
Did he?
Like tipping back beers after a punch out. Yeah,
he had to pitch in a playoff game against the Blue Jays, and he ended up pitching, but the finger, he cut his finger with flying a drone.
Yeah,
imagine calling your GM or manager and going, "Hey, I know I'm supposed to pitch tomorrow. I'm supposed to start in this playoff game, but I was just mucking around with my fucking drone, and I've just sliced my fucking, like, I think it was the second or the third finger, which, like, I mean, you can tell me how important those fingers are. To, like,
it is too. This one especially, I had a blister on my finger for the most part of the first 3 months of the year, and like,
and that's like
this finger here. I call it like your spin finger because it's the last one that it's in contact with the ball, and it's probably the most important one.
Yeah.
So for me to have that, like, there was days where I was playing catch, and it was like, I was throwing like this with just the finger and the thumb on the ball trying to get it there.
And it's coming out like me in the San Diego Padres little thrower thing, throwing like 70 miles an hour and thinking, that's fucking heat.
Bringing it today. So that was good. I think it was early on I was trying to be Mariano, and I was throwing a cutter, which was my best pitch at the start, and then it kind of deteriorated my fastball, and it kind of made my slider a bit worse because I was taking a bit off it, and I was trying to kind of push it instead of ripping down kind of thing. And then when I stopped throwing the cutter, it kind of slowly went away, but it snuck back every now and then, which was always fun. But yeah, as a pitcher, like your fingertips
it's super important.
That's your livelihood, pretty much, which is weird to say when.
But no, it makes sense. Like, I think the craziest thing about Mariano Rivera is that you knew what was coming, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you literally, as a batter, you literally knew what was coming your way, and you still, like, 99% of the time, there's nothing you could do.
Yeah, which is ridiculous. Like, you look at the whole Astros cheating scandal, right? Like, the success that they had knowing what pitch was coming was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, every hitter that went up and faced Mariano Rivera knew what was coming.
Yeah.
Like, there was a video I saw today, and it was an at-bat against Ryan Klesko with the Braves. And Mariano Rivera broke his bat 3 times in one at-bat. So he broke 3 different bats. Yeah. And the whole time, like, Klesko's sitting there, he knows he's throwing a cutter.
Yeah, he's like,
and you still can't hit it.
It's like, I got nothing for you boys. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's absolutely crazy. You, at one point in the season, you went back to, I guess, is it called single A?
Low A. Yeah.
For a weekend. What was that whole experience like? Because I know you sort of mentioned the fact that, you go from that bit, you're like, I just really want to make the team, and you're kind of nervous, but then, you get your struggles and you start to look over your shoulder, and then someone does tap you on the shoulder and says, hey, we want you to come down here for a weekend.
Yeah. Well, it was a bit of a weird one. Like, obviously, getting demoted definitely hurts your pride a bit. But for me, it was like I probably had one really strong month, and then a couple of weeks into this next one, I was really strong. Like, I think I might have thrown on the Tuesday, so the game 1, and I think I threw 1 inning and I had 2 punchies. So a real good outing for me. And then I was supposed to throw either the Saturday or the Sunday again. And didn't throw Saturday, and I was a bit flat, and we went back, and I was sitting in my apartment, and I was just eating, and I got a text from the trainer, and he texted me and said, hey, can you come back in? Which is never a good thing to have.
No.
So I went in and told my roommate, and I was like, can I borrow your car? I got to go back down. And he was like, I'll fucking drive you. And I was like, shit, that's not good.
I don't want you driving my car. Yeah, you're like, fuck, how does everyone know except me? Yeah.
And then, so I go down there, and then I'm walking in, and Michael Massey walked out, one of our superstars, and he's like, what'd you forget? And I'm like, no, Danny texted me, the trainer, to come meet him, and he goes, oh, shit. And I was like, fuck, that's really not good.
Yeah, that's not good.
So I walk in, I go see the trainer, I'm like, hey, mate, what's going on? And he's like, just the manager's office at the end. And in my head, I'm like, fuck, that's all she wrote. I'm thinking I'm getting released. So in the back of my mind, I'm like, fuck, I'm done.
Yeah.
Like, well, at least I finished strong, had a good taste in the mouth to finish.
Yeah.
And then I went in there, and he was like, we had an issue in low A where they had a bunch of double headers because there was a bunch of games that got postponed because of the weather being down south where they were. And he was like, we literally have no relievers in low A tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
So he's like,
shit,
we're sending you and Peyton down just for one day. He's like, pack for one day. You're only pitching in the game tomorrow. And then that'll be it. And I was like, oh, look, you know, I'm sitting here thinking I was about to get fucking released, so a demotion sounds pretty good.
You're like, Mum, hey, I'll see you soon, but like, what are the COVID rules? Do I have to quarantine? Like, you're like, everything's going through your head.
Yeah, nightmare stuff. And then we went down, and it was a bit different. Like, I had a bloody first class ticket down there, so I was like, geez, the Royals are really like,
thank you.
This is an absolute push out the
door.
Gone
from being released to having feet up.
How good's this? So we went down there and had a meeting with the manager and the pitching coach, and they kind of said, like, look, we got no relievers. We have one guy we could use, but we want to save him. Yeah. So he's like, if we can get through a starter and then just you two guys throw, that's all we need, and we'll get you out of here. I'm like, oh, mint. So I'm like, all right, we'll just come down, do our thing, get out of there. And we threw, like, I think I threw 3 scoreless, and then Peyton came in and threw 2 scoreless after me. And we were kind of joking, saying, like, whoever threw the most got to go home. Like, whoever had the most innings, based off, like, how many days you have to rest after how many innings you throw. So, like, I walked up after my out, and he was warming up in the bullpen, and I walked down there with a big grin on my face. Like, I'm fucking out of here, champ. You know?
Like, I'm not even going to watch the rest of this game.
I'm done. I'm putting the feet up. And then after the game, we sat around the clubhouse waiting for ages. It got to, like, 12:30. The manager and the pitching coach hadn't had a call from the coordinators, so we're like, oh, we'll just go home. Like, tomorrow's an off day anyway. Like, so we went back to the apartment or the hotel they put us up in. We were just chilling, and then the next day he got a call. The roommate got a call, and it was like the manager, and he was like, hey mate, like, you going back? And he turned to me and he's like, we're going back. And I'm sitting there playing PS.
I'm like, come on, boys.
Jump out of the seat, a little punch in the air. I'm like, beautiful, you know. And then towards the end of the phone call, he goes, hey, could you put Mitch on?
Oh,
like,
no.
Fuck, that's not good. Oh. So he hands me the phone. He's like, hey, mate, so Peyton's going to go home. We're gonna keep you because we need you for a few more days. And I'm like, oh, yeah, mate, no worries. You know,
I've just fist pumped. You can't do this to me.
Absolutely furious, obviously, but you know, you take it in stride. And for me, I kind of thought, like, look, I'm pretty pissed off that I'm in low A and I've been sent down, and I'm an older boy and I'm down here.
Yeah.
And I pitched well. I did exactly what they asked me. Packed for one day. Yeah. And I'm going to be here a
Left
few
my
more.
Gucci slides back in South Bend.
Yep, someone stole them. So I was like, all right, look, it doesn't really change too much for me. Like, everything that I was working on in high A, I'm still working on that here. I'm in a different environment. I get to throw to different hitters. I get to, you know, check out a different part of America. Like, I kind of just took it on stride.
Yeah.
And then found out from their pitching coach, he was like, the Royals asked which one out of me and Peyton they'd like to keep for that week. And he was like, you threw so well that I told him I want you to stay here.
There you go,
so
like head wobble.
I'm like, you fucking prick. So that's the reason I'm sticking around. I threw too well. I should have just came out and got shoved.
I should have came here and got shelled. Just one innings of work. Like, I would have been fine.
And then I went out and threw well, and then the next day after that second outing, they called me and they're like, hey, like, we really appreciate it. We're sending you back up. So I went back up, which was good. And then even like yesterday, I went and watched a bit of club ball, and the 2 Royal Scouts who signed me were there. Pretty much the reason I went down, obviously. And even yesterday, they gave me some more feedback about how happy the Royals were about how I handled that whole thing, and they were really impressed with how I went about it. And, you know, like, a lot of people, like, even, you know, a lot of people would be straight on the phone with their agent, and fortunately, agent's a pretty quick conversation for me. I just, you know, find a mirror and start talking to myself. But so my agent was pretty happy with how it all turned out.
We sort of touched on the service time thing before, and I saw you a couple of Saturdays ago. We ran into each other at a Bikram yoga class that we were doing in Northcote. But so the 2 things on that is we have to mention that Sean Deere, good friend of the show, got very excited once he learnt about the MLB pension.
Yeah.
And just how he might try and latch his way on. I don't think I've ever seen a man more desperate in my life than that moment when he found out that, you could qualify for MLB pension if you hit like certain parameters, and he was just literally planning the rest of his life. He's like, I'm not going to have to be a tradie like anymore.
Yeah, well, we're pretty close, me and Sean, but I reckon I probably got about 6 texts from him the next day, and he was probably accelerating the friendship a bit there after finding out about that. But I was quick to let him know that I'm a long way off getting some big league pension money, or at least some big league time. So.
No, 100%. And I mean, when you retire, if you do get that, you know, you're probably going to have a wife, and 3's a crowd, if we're being honest.
I'll keep him around.
Yeah.
He's a good pet, I reckon.
Yeah, absolutely he is. The other thing that from that, you did mention to me that I sort of just asked you, you know, how are you sort of feeling? And you sort of said, you know, exhausted. You know, 9 months is a very long time. It's, you know, we haven't even sort of touched on the fact that, you know, the spring ball stuff that you did with my boys, the Sagueros.
Yeah.
But I guess as obviously no one knows your body and sort of your game better than you, but how are you sort of approaching this sort of off-season, and what do you think is the best, I guess, maybe not usage, but how do you think that you would be situated best? Yeah,
it's a bit of a tough one. Like playing, you know, finishing the season, I think September 20-something. So, you know, we start playing in April with the spring training games, and then you finish up towards there in September, and like towards those last few weeks, like everyone's like, I wasn't hurting or anything like that, but your arm's heavy. It feels slow. Like it's not too great. And then, to have another couple months tacked on there. Obviously, the fall league's a brilliant experience, and to get an invite there is pretty astounding. You can't really say no to something like that. But yeah, towards the end, like probably those last couple outings in the fall league, I was definitely out of juice, and you could see that with the velo dropping off a bit. I just thought we kind of sat down with the Royals with my exit meeting, and they asked, like, you know, how much time you want to take off to give your arm time to recover, and I said I need about 4 weeks, I reckon, which they said about 3 or 4, whatever you need. But for me, like, you know, all the other boys, they finished end of September, take their month off, and then slowly start building back up. But for me, like, we didn't finish until the 21st of November. So it's like there's an extra, you know, 2 months there that I've not necessarily lost to the off-season, because, you know, the experience I had in the fall league probably set me up a lot better than, you know, a couple extra weeks playing catch down at Monty.
Yeah.
But yeah, just that kind of get back to neutral, get my arm healthy, and, you know, just build back up like the foundation of strength. Like by not throwing for 4 weeks, I can hammer the gym and not really worry about, oh shit, like I probably can't do shoulders today because I got long toss tomorrow kind of thing. So it's kind of just getting your arm back to neutral and getting it slowly moving, and then just attacking the strength side of things towards the start, and then I guess right before spring training, kind of getting the cardio back and getting the legs under you, because there's a fair bit of running going on in that heat.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty like self-explanatory too. Like, you know, you literally you don't just have like one weapon, but like, you know, if your arm goes, like, you know, they're not rolling you out there to, you know, throw underarm or left-handed. So it's, you know, completely understandable. And I always find it like interesting to sort of see, you know, like how pitchers, you know, they build up. Like you think about, and the next question I have is about you starting, because you did start a game towards the end of the year, but you know, you think, you know, you go, oh, this guy's been throwing like 20, 30 pitches. Like, yeah, he's fresh. Like, surely we can just start him. It's like, they don't fuck around with that.
Yeah.
They don't fuck around with, like, they will build this up over weeks and months to get someone, to transition someone from a reliever to a starter. Because, like, if you're just going from sprinting from one to another, like, your arm's gone, like, 3 innings
like,
in.
the way to explain it's like, it'd be like grabbing Usain Bolt, who's, you know, probably the best sprinter that ever lived, and saying, all right, mate, we're going to run a marathon here. You got 42 Ks. You're like, wow, his body's really not built for that. You know, like relievers, it's come out and it's empty the tank, throw an inning, let it eat kind of thing. Whereas starters, you build up, and so it's a bit of a much different volume of throwing. But yeah, for me, like, the off season, it's a lot of breakdown to build back up kind of thing. So I'll probably probably 7 weeks of throwing before I get back on a mound. So it's like you got to build your arm strength back up before you jump on. Like obviously throwing off a mound and throwing off the slope's pretty high intense for your arm and your elbow and your shoulder and stuff. So it's like you kind of have to navigate those risks and make sure you've done the groundwork to be able to get on a mound and kind of let it eat a bit.
You started the second last game of the season. Now, tell me if I'm wrong with this assessment, right? So you got through 4 innings of work, scoreless as well, mind you. You gave the bullpen the rest that it needed so that the River Bandits could go on and win their first high A championship a few weeks later. Now, if you're reading that story in the Don Valley Leader tomorrow, are you saying that story's accurate or is it false?
Oh, I mean, it's accurate, but I don't really want to jump on myself. Like, probably throwing 4 innings, having a start, last week of September is probably not the true driving force behind us winning that championship. I think, we were the best team all year, but it didn't hurt. Did it? Save the bullpen a bit. But that was a change of pace for me. Obviously never starting before, and it's a lot different prep work for a start than it is for just a normal outing kind of thing. But it was good. I actually had my godfather from Arizona flew over, and he was going to be there regardless. And then it kind of gave him a call. I was like, "Hey mate, like I'm going to be starting tomorrow." Yeah, he was like, "Jesus." So it was the day before I threw in the bullpen, and I was supposed to come in, but then some situation changed. I didn't come in, so he was down in the bullpen, and he was like, obviously pretty happy to see me throwing. And then he messaged me after. He was like, blue balled again. I was like, I know. We'll see. Hopefully I get in there tomorrow. And then, actually I'm starting, mate. So, we will be getting in there.
You absolutely will see me. Yeah. Would you like to start moving forward, or are you sort of happy as a relief guy?
Nah, happy as a reliever. Like, I think as a reliever, they talk about you need probably 2 big league pitches. Like, you need a fastball, obviously, and then a put-away off-speed, whereas for starters, they talk about you need to have 3 above-average big league pitches, which hopefully I'm hoping by the end of the off-season that my splitters come around a bit. But, I think to start, it's a bit different. And I don't know how some of those boys, especially these days, like you got Verlander throwing 100 or 98 in the bloody 8th, like how those blokes can do that, like for me, I go out for the second inning after I've come in and thrown. I'm like, fuck, you're really sending me back out there, huh?
Yeah.
I'll see how this goes. Yeah. Lob a couple over, but
we spoke about the freak, Tim Lincecum, and like him as a starter was unbelievable for this, like, I don't even know, like maybe 3 to 5 year period, but like his arm literally just, to say it fell off a cliff is probably an understatement. Like, it's amazing how, I guess, Matt Harvey's like a really good one. So Matt Harvey had that unbelievable year with the Mets, and he came off Tommy John surgery, and that obviously what they've developed like with that kind of whole recovery has been like improved, but he had like a pitch limit, but he was pitching so fucking well. Yeah. They were like, what do we do? And it's just like, you have to look after, this is literally your business asset.
Exactly. And for us, like the Royals, they were really good about it this year, especially knowing that there was no baseball last year. Like all our starters, they were pretty much on 75 pitch limits, which at the start of the year it was probably like 60 pitch limits, and they kind of gradually got it bigger, but we still probably didn't have a starter go more than 80 pitches, which like we faced when we faced the Twins or the Cedar Rapids, the Twins affiliate in the championship. Like their starter, Louis Varland, I think he went over 100 pitches, and that was pretty consistent throughout the league. That a lot of orgs really didn't set those caps, which for us, like I think there was a lot of times the bullpen probably weren't too impressed that we were yanking the starter at 75, and we would have liked another inning to catch our breath. But overall, for the health of things, and even like with those parameters they set in place to kind of protect guys, like Quad Cities, we had a bunch of guys blow out, which you never like to see, obviously. And with last year, it's definitely just a cumulative effect where you go from not throwing at all to right, shit, like here we go, kind of thing. So
we'll finish up with this. Give me a prediction. So this time next year, let's say I'm on episode 80. I'm begging you to come on again because I absolutely have no one.
That'd be electric.
I've absolutely no one else to talk to. What do you think the main story is that we're talking about in that episode after your second pro season?
Oh, I don't know. I'm a pretty present-minded guy, so I don't really like to look too forward like that. But, I mean, hopefully the goal for me this year is to have a good spring and not get the axe in spring, obviously, but hopefully break with AA, and then I'd like to end the year at least in AAA, or at least knocking on the door. So hopefully this time next year we're doing episode 3, and it's all right.
You're knocking on the door.
Yeah, how can we prepare for a big league spring training? So
yeah, and Sean Deere is just foaming at the mouth at the prospect of you starting to get closer to your MLB pension.
Oh yeah, he's definitely looking up investment opportunities already. I think.
No, good stuff, mate. Thank you very much for coming on, mate. I truly appreciate it.